Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Innovation and Strategy blog. I'm Guillaume Villon de Benveniste, and today we're super happy to welcome Christian Fife. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Guillaume. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to have you on the Innovation Strategy blog. So for those of us that don't know you, could you please introduce yourself in a few words?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Guillaume, for having me on your blog. Hello, everyone. So my name is Christian Fife, and I'm a CFO, passionate about my job, with a career spanning over 25 years across multiple countries, industries, both manufacturing as well as financial services, and covering global roles. Business focused and results driven, but in addition to the technical skills required to get a seat at the table, I'm also firmly convinced that the contemporary CEO requires a very high emotional quotient and an ability to convey a real human element in a technical support function. I've lived in 12 different countries across continents, and thanks to my multicultural background, I'm privileged to be able to speak 7 languages, which have all come in very handy during my various stints.
And I'm guessing that the emotional quotient may vary across cultures and languages. That's another topic for another interview.
Love to explore that as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Maybe we can talk about, you mentioned very briefly what you've been doing in the past. One company you worked with is called WebTech. Could you tell us about their business and what you did there as a CFO?
Sure. Look, WebTech is a very exciting business listed on the New York Stock Exchange, full of passionate people who day in and day out are focused on creating transportation solutions that move and improve the world. And very specifically, this is a company the size of which is 9 billion in sales, leading company in a sector providing equipment, system, and services for the freight and the transit rail industries. So it was founded by George Westinghouse over 150 years ago. In 2019, I was asked to take the role of the CFO for the transit segment. Now, a couple of definitions here. First, for the sake of clarity, a segment in the language of the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, which is a government agency, the primary purpose of which is to enforce the law against market manipulation, is a key operating part of a corporation that is required to disclose financial statements. Now, the SEC has increased focus over the last years on these segments through a multitude of comment letters. Now, back to transit, this part of the business provides technology and innovative solution for brakes, heating, ventilation, or HVAC, doors, pantograph for passenger trains, metros, and tramways. The customers in this case are both the original equipment manufacturers, such as the likes of Alstom, Siemens, or CAF, but also local operators such as Transport for London or RATP and SNCF in France, or Deutsche Bahn in Germany, and others around the globe. It's sized at around about 3 billion in global sales, with roughly 100 operating units across the world. Now, I was asked to join at a time when profitability and cash generation were very far from shareholders' expectation. And this was weighing down the whole corporation.
Right. And so my understanding was that you were asked to pursue 3 different missions. One was to accelerate profitable growth. There was also a topic on finalizing an integration and transforming the business model. So could we perhaps talk about finalizing an integration? You mentioned that there were about 100 operating units. Was there integration to do within these 100 operating units, or did you perhaps do an acquisition that you needed to integrate further, or what was the purpose of this integration?
So the integration part was basically stemming from the fact that the company had been an M&A machine, acquiring one company after the next for many, many years, and it was extremely successful at that. While maintaining almost complete independence of the acquired units. Now, given the size of the company, especially also after the acquisition of a French company, Favely at the time, the size had become, too large to basically continue to use all these units independently. At some point, the leadership back in HQ in the US believed that it was really the time to accelerate the unification of the go-to-market strategies. When you go to Alstom and you're going to present yourself selling pantograph with one brand, and then you're going to be presenting yourself selling HVAC with another brand, or brakes with a third brand, you don't really have the same type of leverage vis-a-vis the customer than if you were to present yourself as one integrated company and then go and sell, right?
So that's
similarly, but even most importantly,
no, that's interesting because a lot of times integration is meant to drive economies of scale. And here you've mentioned that it's more like branding power or client leverage. Is that correct?
Sorry, we have a time lag, but it is indeed a question of looking at it from both angles. One is the commercial opportunity. At the end of the day, you really want to also ensure that you've got leverage to be able to sell more and sell more efficiently, because you're going to be finding yourself, I mean, there's not too many companies that have the breadth of the portfolio that Wabtec has in those technologies. So you want to be as much as possible a one-stop shop to your customers. So that's one aspect of it. And obviously, you're going to have simultaneously the sourcing aspect, which is you go to your suppliers, and again, you're going to buy, small number of components for the pantograph, and another small number of components for the brakes. Whereas, you're going to the same supplier. So, if you do combine purchases, then you are bound to have better leverage on negotiating prices. The third aspect of it, obviously, is going to be redundancies in various functions. So that obviously was also another part of the approach that we led to ensure that we're going to become leaner in the way we'll be handling all these various steps in the process that seem to be repetitive. But I guess the most important aspect that we really looked at was, up until that time, let's say individual variable compensation was really driven by each individual's own results. Mm-hmm. So within each one of the companies. Right. So you could find yourself in a company that, did great relative to the rest of the group that didn't do too well. And then you'd have, let's say, variable compensation exploding one way, in one place, and then the rest of the corporation not having that great result. This is more a philosophical matter, Guillaume. Mm-hmm. It's not so much driven by, it's not a question of efficiencies or not, but right. At the end of the day, if you really want to create the sense of belonging, the sense of purpose, the sense of one company, right. It starts with how people get compensated. And that's one of the things that, obviously, this is not just a financial exercise. This is a very, very, it's a philosophical discussion. And then therefore it really needs to be driven across all the functions with spearheading from the HR function. But this was one of the main things that basically put everyone into the same boat. Right. We're not working in our own little corner, and we really don't care about what's happening in the rest of the corporation. Okay. But we're really all tied to the same results. There's pluses and minuses, but in order to drive that integration, the corporation felt that was absolutely necessary.
Okay, perfect. So you mentioned at the very beginning when you were introducing yourself that you believed that the CFO must develop a high emotional quotient. And he said that that's all the more remarkable as a statement, considering that the CFO is a very technical function. Those were your words. Now, could you tell us what you mean exactly by high emotional quotient first, and then we can talk about why it's important for the CFO.
Sure. Look, in the past, for many years, CFOs are known to have built their careers on technical skills and financial acumen. And obviously that is still relevant today. However, I may say, and I'm not the only one, I suppose, in saying it, it's probably not enough today. So more and more, modern CFOs are taking roles of business partners, right? To help business leaders build relationships inside and outside the company, resolve conflicts, and motivate high-performing teams to drive performance. Now, that's why it becomes relevant to have an additional set of soft skills being built around emotional intelligence. And mind you, it's not a brand new invention. It's just that it was on a very limited number of companies' radar screen until as recently as 5 to 6 years ago. So what are we really talking about? So I would say emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify, to use, to understand and manage the emotions of oneself in the first place and others in a positive way. So in other words, since CFOs are required to induce change through others, it is therefore key today to inspire and influence in today's collaboration-centered workplace. After the pandemic, we've also seen a huge surge of remote workers, right? Mm-hmm. So CFOs now, to drive performance, need to be able to respond to divergent points of views and differences in the way people think, as well as harness that power that the individual people have in an environment we have fewer layers of management and remote-based roles. So leadership styles today tend to lean towards less authoritative or bossy, even at lower levels. So as a result, I want to say that CFOs are finding themselves connecting and collaborating with people they would most likely not have interacted with in the past. So in short, technical financial expertise is a must. It's a vital, it's a non-negotiable. But CFOs really need to who want to take their performance to the next level, we really need to combine this financial know-how with emotional intelligence to gain that performance advantage through the full organization that is becoming more knowledgeable and motivated to drive results home.
Right. And this seems all the more important considering that there's more remote working now. And that requires to manage people working remotely and to keep the performance at the same level while the people are not connecting on an emotional level at the office.
Right, absolutely.
So another thing that would strike anybody that would read your LinkedIn profile, Christian, is the fact that you earned awards through NYSE investor surveys, ranking the investment relationship function as a top 3 for 3 years in a row, 3 consecutive years. And this in the highly competitive automotive sector. Is that correct?
That's thank you. I mean, first and foremost, yeah, the investor survey results across the various IR categories were really the outcome of a fabulous teamwork we had within with all of us at WAPCO Holdings at the time. WAPCO Holdings is now part of ZF, so it was acquired a few years ago, and that's a company where I spent 10 years, and I was able to learn a lot from great leaders. But it was very humbling to see that for some of these categories we were in the top 3, with other players in the field being as large as Ford, for example. That those were the types of corporations that we and at the time WAPCO had a market cap of $8 to $9 billion. So
right.
It was
not Ford.
Not Ford.
Right. Okay, well, great. So maybe we can talk about this matter, the investor relationship function, in more details in a forthcoming call. Would that be okay with you?
That'll be perfect. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, look, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for telling us about what you've been doing in the past and how you see the high emotional quotient being so important today in the market. And let's connect soon to discuss the investor relationship. Is that okay?
Thank you for having me, Guillaume. It was a pleasure to speak to you today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.